Hello, Cougar Nation, and welcome back to River Forest here in fall 2025 for Cougar Sports. That entirety of the fall season for Cougar Athletics getting kicked off right here at Concordia Stadium with some women's soccer action. Right here on Friday afternoon, the Cougars soccer team taking on the visiting Elmhurst Blue Jays in their season opener right here in River Forest. Concordia, Chicago, coming off of a season that Coach Eddie Garza has said did not live up to expectations, but was one of the best seasons the Cougars have had in recent years. Same thing for Elmhurst, a team that's been on the upward trajectory in the past few years, and both these teams looking to continue to put in strong performances. And both of these fairly young teams, a lot of returners on these rosters. You'll see we go through those starting lineups. Go through the Cougars first. Starting in goal, one of those new freshmen for the Cougars, Naomi Gonzalez. Also starting to number 3, Natalie Flores. Number 4, Mira Hirayama. Number 6, Lorenza Mendoza. Number 7, Izzy Fairless. Number 11, Alexa Martinez. Number 12, Erica Flores. Number 13, Emma Schlisman. Number 16, Sofia Casares. Number 20, Quetzali Artiega Vasquez. And number 36, Julia Urbanchik. And out of that roster, 5 freshmen, four freshmen and a transfer for the Cougars, 5 newcomers for CUC. Over on Elmhurst side, in goal, number 0, Erin Fitzharris. Number 6, Angie Lopez. Number 8, Lauren Nevins. Number 10, Gracie Bray. Number 11, Ellie Muscalerello. Number 12, Courtney Conlon. Number 14, Caitlin Guala. Number 21, Mia Sonato. Number 23, Kelly Coughlin. Number 29, Maddie Cummings. And number 31, Nora Simon. As those two teams take to the field, I'm Jonathan Shear here with the Cougar Sports Network. Joining me for today's season opener is Eric Perry, as both these teams head out onto the field. Cougars will kick off to start the game, and they will. That's right back to Artiega Vasquez. Now over to the defense. Mendoza playing on the sideline, sends it into Hirayama in the back middle. Hirayama, one of those freshmen on the Cougars team last year in her sophomore season. She took on a leading role with the team by the end of the year, putting a strong performance in the Cougars' first playoff game in a few years last year. But now Elmhurst trying to put up a quick response to the Cougars, unable to get it past midfield, charging down the sideline and out of bounds.
Elmhurst was threatening early, but goes out the back. Cougars get the opportunity to try to do some things on offense. And last year, Jonathan, defense wasn't the issue for the Cougs. They had a really strong defense. The issue was their offense. They just couldn't really seem to get anything going throughout the season. So they're hoping that, like you said, they got all these new, fresh faces. They're hoping that they can really provide a spark and keep this team on the upward trajectory they've been on.
And there's another gaffe in the backfield for the Cougars. Ellie Muscarello steps up, steals one away from Mendoza, rips a shot, and it's a soft shot right at Gonzalez. The Cougars struggling to keep the ball out of the penalty box on their own side of the field so far. Elmhurst playing high pressure to start the game. Now Flores on the near sideline trying to get it down towards midfield, gets it off of Muscarello. And the Cougars have a throw and should be able to get it past midfield for the first time today. But yeah, you mentioned the Cougars' scoring struggle is not the worst in the conference in goals per game or goals scored. 18 by the end of the year. 0.9 goals scored per game. Not numbers you like to see, not good numbers by any means. There are worse teams in the conference in terms of that. The problem that you see the Cougars run into was their shots. Last in the conference in shots attempted last year. They struggled in that volume area. They struggled to create opportunities, put up opportunities to see if stuff would stick. And that's where they're going to try and correct that offense this year. Right now, struggling to get the ball past midfield, and they've had possession for much of this game, but Elmhurst applying a lot of pressure on the ball, and the Cougars unable to work it past that midfield on what is actually a brand new field for the Cougars. Got a brand new football field and soccer field over the summer, so you can see the updated logo out on midfield. It's more maroon around the field, some brightened up yellow lines for the soccer field as well.
Oh yeah, it's a great looking field, and what better weather could you possibly have to christen the new year, new season of sports for the Cougs?
As there goes Guala trying to push into the box. That gets cleared out by the Cougars again. Now Elmhurst working around the midfield over to the far sideline. There's Nevins, and Nevins, the leader of this team last year, 11 goals by the end of the year. First team all-conference in the CCIW.
And Evans was a beast for Elmhurst last year. Like you said, led the team in golds, had 11 in 20 games. Once conference play hit, she kind of dropped off a little. She had 9 goals in the first 11 games, only 2 in the last 9.
That's cleared down the sideline over to Muscarello. Muscarello getting a lot of action on the near side of the field as the ball stayed around midfield over here for most of the game. Now Muscarello down into the corner, crosses that in. And that's going to get cleared out by Mendoza.
And again, that's that Cougars defense that last year was very solid for them. Like you said, the issue was volume. They were only shooting, Cougars only getting 7 shots a game off.
There's a long shot from Muscarello right at Gonzalez. Once again, not a very hard shot from Muscarello. And yeah, it'll take a bit as we get into this game, 10, 20 minutes in, before you start to see what the game plan from these two teams are. Obviously, Elmhurst applying a lot of high pressure to start this game, trying to push the Cougars onto the back foot early.
Yeah, Elmhurst is trying to get the Cougars back against the wall pretty much from the jump, make it so that they have sustained possessions deep in the Cougars side of the field.
Long touch from Mendoza right there, and she's able to clear up that mistake. Mendoza nearly costing the Cougars a goal right there.
Mendoza made the mistake, but then, like you said, was able to course correct and make it so now that Elmhurst has the first corner kick of the day.
Now it's good awareness from Muscarello. Mendoza held the ball for a long time, took a bit too long of a touch. Muscarello able to pounce on it. Now Evans trying to clear that into the box, and Mendoza clears that straight out of bounds. And that's going to go from a corner kick to a throw-in for the Blue Jays.
So it's still deep on the Cougars side of the field. A little bit more ideal having a throw-in than compared to a corner.
That'll be Muscarello to take the throw-in. Looking for Nevins. Back to Muscarello. And cross into nobody. Cougars now trapped with it in the corner. Casares trying to get out of there. And she'll just let that dribble out of bounds after it deflects off of Muscarello. That'll be a goal kick for the Cougars.
So even though the Elmhurst had several opportunities down there, ultimately nothing came of it. Now again, the Cougars have the opportunity to take possession and try to move the ball down the field.
This is how a lot of the Cougars games felt last year through these first 5 minutes. A bend, don't break defense. The ball spends a lot of time on the Cougars' half of the field, but the goals don't come very quickly for the opposing team because the Cougars are able to put on a strong showing in the penalty box. As that ball quickly moving up the far side, Ortega Vasquez loses possession of it. That's cleared up field towards Cummings. Now Cummings circling around, moving central, trying to look for an opening somewhere. Lays that off. That's a long shot. Top of the key, deflected off the goalpost, and the rebound put in by Nevins. Elmhurst strikes first. It's 1-0 Blue Jays off of a long shot and the rebound from Nevins.
At first, it looked like Elmhurst wasn't going to be able to do anything. They were having trouble trying to get the ball past, but then Nevins got that high kickoff, went off the bar, and then ended up going in. And like you said, Elmhurst first on the scoreboard today.
Man, that's just a tough shot to block for Gonzalez. Perfectly placed off the crossbar. Hard to jump up and get that one. And I'm not exactly sure what happened on the Cougars' defensive end of that as well. On that rebound, you had 3 Blue Jays crashing on the ball. Went to like maybe 1 Cougar defender, so the Blue Jays perfectly positioned to chase after that rebound. And now the Cougars are going to have to play from the back foot as Hirayama loses that one to Cummings. Now Muscarello moving central, sending that up to Guala. Now Guala circling back central. She'll try and get that across. Jumping up on that is Flores.
And if you're the Cougars now, you're just trying to minimize the damage. You're already down 1-0. You just want to kind of calm yourselves. You want to collect yourselves. Let the defense make a stand so that you can get the ball back on offense. And again, try to slowly work your way down the field and get your first shots of the game off.
And honestly, what it looks like so far for the Cougars is they're just spending a bit too much time with the ball. They're not getting rid of it quickly enough, and that's giving the Blue Jays time to get in and put pressure on it, kick it away, cause some chaos, and keep the ball on the Cougars' defensive third. As now here's going to come another corner kick for the Blue Jays. Nevins headed over there with Coughlin.
And part of the issue with a bend, don't break defense is that you can only bend for so long until eventually one of those balls is going to sneak into the back of the net.
Now Fairless chasing after Coughlin, trying to get out. Coughlin on goal, deflected by Gonzalez, can't deflect the rebound, and that is another goal for Elmhurst.
Gonzalez tried to stop the ball from her knees, but ultimately she was only able to reach up and get a hand on it and just deflect it back into the net. Didn't really have a chance there with the way the defense had kind of collapsed, so that there was the easy shot for the Blue Jays.
And Elmhurst, an early 2-0 lead just 8 minutes into this game. And the Cougars even more on the back foot than they were before, but yeah, it's a long shot, and Gonzalez hasn't gotten beaten on any of the long shots necessarily. It's always been on those short rebounds, and for both of these goals, and one of them, tough long shot to block anyways, was a different situation. That last one, it's what you see a lot of the times, and it's where you start to see a bit of separation in the skill of a goalkeeper, or their comfort level is the ability to catch the ball rather than deflect. And pretty much all we've seen from Gonzalez so far in her first start in goal is deflecting. Now, are you too surprised seeing that from a freshman goalie? No, this is Naomi Gonzalez's first start at the college level, and to her credit, she's done a great job with that deflecting. You like to see that from a goalie as the Cougars get furthest up the field. They've seen them today for the Blue Jays steal it back and clear that back up to midfield. But yeah, you love to see consistent deflections from a goalie, but that hold is always going to be preferred to a deflection, and that's where the Cougars get beat on there. Ellie Muscarello picking up her first goal of the year.
And like you said, Gonzalez has looked good in the goal with the so far very little support that she's been given. But yeah, you hope that, again, this is just some early freshmen adapting to the learning curve, and that as the season goes on, she'll get better.
Now the Cougars almost able to break into the box there. No State retain possession up around the edge of the offensive third. That's a long ball in toward Artiega Vasquez. That'll get cleared out of bounds by the Blue Jays. So the Cougars, offensive possession, first time we've seen that today.
And this is really what the Cougars need to do now. They need to spend some time on the Blue Jays' side of the field and get some quality shots on goal.
And the official stopping the clock to check on Maddie Cummings, who was bent over on the offensive third for the Blue Jays. She gives him the thumbs up, says she's good to go, comes back on to the defensive third for Elmhurst. And play will resume Cougars possession. That's a short ball into the corner off the feet of Martinez and out of bounds, so Elmhurst will take possession back.
And now that they're on the deep Elmhurst side of the field, this is where the Cougars offense really needs to be able to try to get the ball away from the Blue Jays.
Again, that's going towards the goal line, smartly cleared out by Nora Simon. Fairless with the throw. She'll just try and send that into Flores. Up towards the top of the box, Hirayama steps out to Fairless. Fairless tries to go central. Elmhurst now with a great lots of open grass to clear it out and get it upfield. And the Cougars going to play with it on the defensive end. Sent upfield by Mendoza. And these two defenses trading possession. And we'll get our first whistle from the officials today. A little shove from Erica Flores, and that'll be our first free kick of the day on the defensive third for Elmhurst.
Yeah, Flores just came in with kind of a bit of a shot to the Elmhurst player, tried to get the ball away, just hit him a little too hard.
Yeah, as far as, tough plays on defense go, not a bad play by any means.
Definitely not.
Cummings trying to get under that. Mendoza jumping forward to clear that out. Using a lot of this, Cougars passing back and forth on the defensive end. Mendoza spending a bit too much time with it. Muscarello steals it, puts it into Cummings. And Cummings, quick turn, blocked down by the Cougars. Hirayama clears that out far side. Fairless touches that back down.
That was a good stand by the Cougars defense. Cummings was trying to break through, but the Cougars basically formed a mini wall there and made it so that ball didn't even get close to the goalie.
Schlissman, one of those new faces for the Cougars, sends that up to Fairless. Now Izzy Fairless, long ball towards the corner. Not going to get there, and that'll go out the back line. Goal kick for Elmhurst. But I think Lorenzo Mendoza, one of those freshmen for the Cougars' new face out of Murrieta, California, and Mendoza, we've seen that already a few times in the first 11 minutes of this game, just taking a bit too long with possession on the defensive end when it gets passed back to her, when it gets passed over to her. Part of that's going to be the confidence level, and you'll see that a lot from players starting out at the freshman level, any level of soccer, where you're starting out in a game for the first time, and that's something that we'll probably see her work on already in this game alone, but that's been dangerous for the Cougars already multiple times in this game.
Yeah, you don't want to overthink the opportunities that you have. Sometimes you just have to go on instinct, and when you get the ball, just get rid of it, get the ball to the next person.
Cougars possession for the throw-in on the near side. Natalie Flores to take the throw. Elmhurst possession back. Nevins. Ball top of the box. Out to the outside. So now Grace Bray working towards the corner. Working on Fairless. Saw possession over in the corner. Trying to turn out. Nowhere to go. And she'll just try and pass that back to Coughlin. Now Coughlin trying to escape. She'll be able to turn that middle. Now open grass for Guala. Trying to work into the box, and the Cougars will seal that one away. Concordia blocks Elmhurst out of the penalty box, and now they'll try and retaliate with a quick counter of their own. Martinez trying to work down the sideline. Now a long ball up for Fairless. That'll be a bit too long, so Simon will get there first, and she'll kick that out of bounds off of Fairless.
That was a good push by the Cougs, but ultimately we've seen a few times so far in the first 14 minutes of the game. Some of those passes down the side have just been a little bit too long. They've just been a little bit too much out of reach of the other Cougar players.
I think part of the reason you're seeing that too, Eric, is just because the Cougars have struggled to string together those short passes to slowly move up the field so far. So anytime you get an opportunity to push it quickly upfield, they're trying to do that. That situation, you're trying to push a quick counter. It makes sense, but Concordia, we still haven't seen them get those short passes, that slow progression up the field working yet, as there's an in-ball that's stolen away by Elmhurst. Cummings lays that off to Nevins. Nevins over to Muscarello on the near side. Now Muscarello slowly working her way in, down towards the line, crosses it in. And Fairless on the far side will get there. No one from Elmhurst nearby. And she'll send that up to Arteaga Vasquez. So the Cougars trying to work the long balls up the far sideline again, and that'll head out of bounds by the Cougars bench for an Elmhurst throw.
What you were saying, talking about how they've been forced to stick to those long passes for the Cougs, Elmhurst has done a good job of playing really good defense and making it so that every short pass is contested, and that the Cougars haven't had any opportunities thus far to really string together some short passes and make some big gains down the field, so they've had to rely on those deep passes.
And there's the whistle. Handball on the Cougars. Blown on Julia Bonchik. Long ball in, tried to go for the head, had the hands up to go for it. Misjudged the ball off the right forearm, and now a great free kick opportunity for the Blue Jays.
This is a prime opportunity if you're Elmhurst to push that lead from 2-0 to 3-0.
And they're going to group 4 players around the ball. Try and play with some misdirection. Ball's in play, shot on, and it's a goal! Long shot right on the money from Kelly Coughlin. Right over the hand of Gonzalez. Top bins for Elmhurst. And it's a 3-0 game, Blue Jays.
Elmhurst decided to go with a trick play out of the free kick, and it ended up paying off. That ball went just right above the outstretched fingers of Flores, and that essentially, again, trick play did a good job of creating some confusion about who was getting the ball and who was going to be kicking the ball, and it paid off for the Blue Jays.
You know, just over the fingertips of Gonzalez. You can't get much closer to the top bins without going off the crossbar. Perfectly placed shot from Coughlin. And it's 3 different players for 3 goals for Elmhurst today to start. They'll quickly push up the field. Muscarello down into the corner, going to Natalie Workman, who's now into the game for Elmhurst. Got a pair of substitutions for both of these teams. Natalie Workman into the game for Grace Bray. Izzy Fairless out of the game for the Cougars. Into the game, Jasleen Gruel. Casares trying to get out from the SARD line. Stolen away by Lopez. Lopez trying to work her way down the sideline. And that's broken up. Hirayama sends that over to Flores. Flores coming down the near side. Over to Hirayama. Cougars slowly working their way upfield. As it gets passed back to the defense. Urbanchik over to Gruel. Martinez trying to get that upfield. That's cleared out by Elmhurst. Urbanchik trying to chase that down. She'll pass that back to Gonzalez, who will pass it over to Mendoza. That's a soft, poor touch from the Cougars. Conlon now pushing it upfield. Lays it over to Muscarello. One touch cross in for Elmhurst. That's deflected out of bounds. That'll be a goal kick for the Cougars.
I don't think that was a deflection. I think that kick just kind of sailed on her. Just went way left and up. So very fortunate turn of events for the Cougs that there's a slight mistake there on trying to get the ball out, but ultimately didn't end up paying for it.
Goal kick gets passed back to Gonzalez, passed over to Urbanchik. Now Martinez trying to escape the far side, gets it into Hirayama, who has to pass it back to Urbanchik. The Cougars back in the box. Now Mendoza, long touch, trying to get around Muscarello, does, and it's over to Flores. That's a long ball in, gets to Artiega Vasquez, and right back to Mendoza, and right back to Urbanchik. And we're playing ring around the rosy in the defensive third for Concordia.
Elmhurst has been playing just such a good high press defense that Concordia hasn't been able to get the ball past midfield.
That's a nice ball from Hirayama. Flores jumping on it, trying to play pressure. Elmhurst defense able to retain possession, and we are right back over to the Cougar side of the field. There's another long ball from Hirayama. Martinez not able to get to that one. So Hirayama, she'll continue to play distributor. She'll send this one back to the defense.
And again, the Cougs just haven't been able to string together any series of consecutive short passes. They've had to try to use the long pass to get something started.
Martinez loses that one. Workman chasing it to the corner. Urbanchik clears that out of bounds, so it'll stay with Elmhurst, but it'll be a throw for the Blue Jays.
And again, a good opportunity for the Blue Jays deep in Cougar territory. Got a throw in.
And, I mean, makes sense. We spent a lot of time on Concordia's third side of the field, a lot of time in the Cougars' defensive third. Not a great start to a new season for that shot disparity for Concordia, their worst part of their game last year, struggling with it once again in this game so far. 7 shots so far for Elmhurst, 3 of those converted into goals. No shots yet for the Cougars, and I can't really say the Cougars have had a great opportunity on offense yet either.
No, they really haven't been able to have a good push and stay on the Blue Jays side of the field for a consistent amount of time. They've been down there for brief flashes, but then the Blue Jays were able to get the ball back and push down to the Cougars' end.
Flores trying to get under that one, instead cleared out by Lopez. Cummings can't keep that one away from Martinez. Kick back to Schlissman, over to Hirayama, over to Martinez. And we mentioned coming into the game, both these teams, they've been on the upward trajectory over the last couple years. Cougars made the playoffs for the first time in a hot minute last year. Elmhurst back in the playoffs as well in the CCIW. And both of these teams projected to finish in the middle of their conferences. Here's a great run from Flores down the near sideline, finally broken up by Conlon. As Hirayama tries to put pressure on to keep it going. And that will finally end up out of bounds, tapped out of bounds by Mendoza. But yeah, both these teams coming into the year picked to finish middle of the pack in both their conferences. Cougars projected to finish 7th in the coaches poll in the NAC, and on Elmhurst end projected to finish 5th in the coaches poll for the CCIW. So their teams projected to be middle of the pack, coming off of solid years with an upstart team, and they're looking for a strong start. Elmhurst, this is a strong start for them. I mean, as much as you can say a strong after just 15 minutes of play, but for the Cougars, this isn't the immediate start they wanted to have coming into this year. As here's another opportunity for the Cougars. A nice block from Hirayama to shut down Nevins, as Arteaga Vasquez sends that upfield. Good tap away from Asinato. The slow up play. Now the Cougars trying to push the pace. A long ball down the near sideline. Flores isn't going to be able to get there, and that's cleared off of Flores, out of bounds, and that'll be a throw-in for Elmhurst.
Yeah, like you were saying, this is a Cougars team that's very young. They're picked to finish 7th in the NAC, but they have a bunch of freshmen, a bunch of sophomores. So those are players that haven't been seen yet. They haven't really been able to showcase what they can do. So if they can start stringing the sequences together and start making the passes and get some sustained push, not just this game, but the rest of the season on offense, they could very easily finish higher up in the NAC.
Yeah, that's why, I mean, your first game of the year down 3-0, Cougars are nowhere near panic mode already in this game. This is exactly what they use these non-conference games for, with such a young team, to just get a feel for the game, for those players. Cougars putting in a lot of newcomers in that starting lineup today. I mean, that's what it's been for the last years. Half their roster was newcomers last year for the Cougars. A lot of newcomers this year. I mean, Coach Garza said this is his strongest recruiting class in all 4 years he's been at Concordia. So he has high hopes for this team. And right now the focus is getting minutes out on the field, getting experience, and learning how to play at the college level as the Cougars defense able to disrupt that one. Cougars, they'll play on with advantage. Casares trying to find an opening in the middle of the field, steps back, passes that back. That's going to be broken up over to the sideline.
And speaking of getting those young players time, you look at the scoreboard, they're down 3-0. They're down 3-0 against a very good Elmhurst team that, like you said, finished 4th in CCIW last year. They were a very strong team. So, again, definitely no need to panic yet.
Yeah, and part of that, a lot of the goals that that have been given up by the Cougars so far, you can pinpoint exactly what went wrong on the defense. It's not like, the defense was just playing poorly. It's some combination of not crashing on the rebound or mishandling a ball on defense. It's pretty easy to pick out where the Cougars are lacking a bit so far in this game, and that's great to see from a coach this early on in the season, because those are very fixable mistakes when you can see exactly what you would need to work on as the year goes on.
Yeah, those are fixable even at halftime. You can say, all right, this is what you guys did here, here, and here that led to those goals, and here's how we're going to fix it in the second half.
Yeah, and a lot of it's just confidence. I mean, a lot of the stuff we're talking about with these freshmen on defense, it's a confidence level thing. You hold the ball for too long, you're a bit scared to get it out. That's confidence in your first game. You're deflecting the ball instead of catching it. That's a confidence thing from the goalie. I mean, I can say it from back when I played goalie. Anytime you're deflecting instead of catching, it's a lot of it, from at least for me, came from a place of, I'm a bit worried I'm not going to be able to catch the ball and it's going to slip through my hands, so I'm just going to knock it down instead. So that's experience. That's a confidence thing to get into from the keeper's perspective. That's going to come through the next few games. Cougars, a very busy week actually coming up for Concordia. 4 home games to start off their season. So you'll be able to get that experience on the field. As here's another push. Workman crosses that in, cleared out by Hirayama.
Yeah, like you said, some of those, you're just afraid of making the wrong play. You're afraid of making mistakes, and you just kind of have to get in your head that sometimes you're going to make mistakes. You just have to deal with them and move on and keep pushing.
As we get another sub for Elmhurst, out of the game goes Natalie Workman. Into the game is, we'll get that number in a second, number 18, Sophia Burkhead, a sophomore out of Phoenix, Arizona. As that throw-in will get cleared out by the Cougars. And there's a whistle blown. First foul that ended up getting called. Advantage wasn't played on Elmhurst. That'll be a free kick for the Cougars. Just a little grabbing on Elmhurst end, and little mistake on the call there. That is not Sophia Burkhead in the game. It's Haley Jesk, also out of Arizona, but she's a freshman out of Maricopa, Arizona. That's getting bounced around in the midfield once again. This time sent up to Cazares. Cazares trying to go forwards. Soft pass over to Flores. Now Flores trying to get it to Natalie Flores. Knocked away by Lopez and cleared out. Lopez to Nevins. Lopez and Nevins, two of the 4 players on Elmhurst with the most minutes played last year. And that's what's honestly the biggest part of this season for the Blue Jays is there's 6 players with the most minutes played on their team last year are all back this year.
Yeah, they didn't suffer any real losses. They have their big scores, their big minutes players, their goalie from last year. They're basically the same team that they were last year.
On the Cougars' end, those biggest losses for the Cougars, Allie Brown, Pamela Saudivar, and I mean, it didn't really show on the numbers last year for the Cougars through that offensive end. I mean, Saudivar and Brown, the 2 leading scorers for the Cougars with 3 apiece. But, I mean, those are parts of a team that you're going to have to work to replace. They got a lot of minutes out on the field for the Cougars, so Coach Garzi's going to have to work to find a way to replace those players on the field. But, I mean, you saw it all the way through last year and this year. You have so many young players on this roster that replacing that, finding those new pieces to get this team to work shouldn't be too difficult.
And that's a really nice thing. Like you said, the Cougars have such a deep roster that they can kind of mix and match and try to find something that works.
That ball knocked down by Natalie Flores. Played into the Elmhurst defense as Coughlin will bring that upfield. Long ball over to the far side. Tapped back by Martinez. Here's another long ball up. That one looking for Cazares. Crashing over on it is Erica Flores. Nora Simon trying to push up the field, and that'll get taken away. Mia Hirayama takes a hit, and the whistle will get blown, and the Cougars playing quickly off of the free kick.
Yeah, Cougars not wasting a second moving the ball.
This game of kickball continues, 30-yard line to 30-yard line between these two teams. And now Jeske tries to play that up the sideline. Tapped down by Hymas. Lonnie Ziris now plays that up as Mendoza will take that, send it up to Cazares. Cazares coming up the near sideline. Has space, still working up past Lopez, and it's a bit behind Erica Flores. That'll be cleared out of bounds.
Looked like she was anticipating Flores cutting to the left, and instead of Flores cut to the right. But still a throw-in for the Cougs. They still have an opportunity to try to get their first shot on goal.
As you can continue to see that roster get worked around for Elmhurst. Annalie DeFio now into the game. Natalie Flores tries to send that up to Eric Flores. It's cleared out by Lopez.
Cougars have another throw-in, but slightly more down towards the Blue Jay goal. So they're moving slowly but surely.
Flores inbounds that, takes it back, and she'll just send that towards the box, try and hope for a loose ball. Elmhurst able to clear it out easily as that gets headed downfield, and the Cougars defense will take possession of it. Urbanchik tries to send that up the field. Elmhurst knocks it away. Loose ball for Natalie Flores to come over and pick up. Now Flores moving middle, passes that back to Burnout. Martinez on the far side, slowly working up the sideline, now coming middle. Trying to pass that in towards Erica Flores, broken up halfway there by the Blue Jays defense, and the Cougars will start it over.
And the Cougars are doing a good job here of managing to not let Elmhurst get the ball and flip the field immediately. They're doing a good job of keeping the ball on the Blue Jays side.
Natalie Flores sends that into Hirayama. Hirayama over to Martinez. Sorry, Stacy Maskery. As that's a long shot on goal from CUC. And it's an easy save for Fitz-Harris, but it's the first shot and first shot on goal of the day for Concordia. So the Cougars, a little breakthrough on the offensive end of things.
Yeah, it didn't result in a goal, but if you're the Cougs, you're able to say we finally managed to break through and at least get a good shot on goal off.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those things you saw, like the biggest problem with this Cougars offense last year was the ability to create volume, a volume of shots to put on the keeper, keep testing the keeper. First time they've tested the keeper all day, so Fitz-Harris very much ready for it. But, I mean, you look on the other end towards Naomi Gonzalez, she has been getting tested a lot more than Fitz-Harris today, and that can be a very big determinant in the way a game will go for a goalie is how much the opposing offense is putting shots on you, testing you, making you work, making you make a play on the ball.
Yeah, again, the more you poke and prod and push out of defense, the more likely it is to end up breaking in that 1 or 2, or so far for the Blue Jays 3, end up sneaking through.
That free kick bounces around the 20-yard line for a bit before it's kicked into the corner by Burkhead. Visual waves his flag for what looks like an offsides against Elmhurst. Now will be a free kick for the Cougars, an opportunity to clear it out. Sent down the far sideline, cured straight back out by Coughlin. And here's your first big wave of substitutions for CUC. Hirayama out of the game, Mendoza out of the game, and into the game for the Cougars. We'll get those substitutions for a second, in just 1 second. There's a long throw downfield. Official stepping out of the way as Elmhurst brings it back middle. Green grass, nice ball into DeFeo, and DeFeo can't get past the oncoming Cougar defense. That'll get cleared center. Jeski can't keep possession. Poor touch on the pass. It'll stay in the defensive third for CUC.
Cougars really being pushed now deep by their goal.
Now Jeski again touches that down, passed back, cleared out by the Cougar defense. Here's DeFeo on the near side. She'll take it into the corner, working on Reagan Espinoza Suarez. That'll get cleared out. Natalie Flores back to Espinoza Suarez.
Good defensive stand there by the Cougs to get the ball back out towards midfield.
And we're back in midfield as Elmhurst continues to push that up towards the goal again. It's still 3-0 Blue Jays, 9.5 minutes to go in the half. As that's out of bounds, 9.5 minutes to go. We mentioned earlier in the game, Eric, new field for Concordia.
Beautiful field.
Mentioned it. Updated logo, so it's up with the current branding for CUC. We've got more maroon on the field. What's your favorite part of the new field, Eric?
I really like the gold trim on the Cougar at midfield. I really like it. It really pops out to me.
It's something we don't see on much of the current branding for
You
CUC
really don't know.
with the new Cougar logo.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it a lot with the old Cougar logo. That was a bit more minimalist. Didn't have as many details as the current Charlie head that we have. on the athletics branding.
Yeah, the old Charlie head was very much just like the base Charlie logo with like maybe a black trim on it.
And Espinoza over to Natalie Flores. Flores on the far side, clicking that down the new maroon sidelines. That honestly, it's more of a smaller thing. I like that about this new field, just aesthetically compared to the old one. The maroon sidelines for the benches for the football games. We'll see Cougar football in action here in River Forest in just 8 days now, and you'll see those sidelines get used for benches, for the players, and just aesthetically, it adds a lot to a stadium, especially when it's a stadium as small as Concordia Stadium is. Just having those colors around the field to make it look a bit more modern, a bit more lively. It can do a lot for a football field.
Yeah, the old field, it looked nice. It looked good. It looked nice. This one really pops out at you when you stare at it.
And the Cougars, they have the ball now in the offensive third. Espinoza, she'll throw that in back to Alexandra Rodriguez.
Good opportunity here for the Cougs.
And Rodriguez, number 47. A higher number you don't see often at the D3 level of soccer. That'll get cleared over to the sideline. And eventually tapped out of bounds by the Cougars. But yeah, and honestly, just logistically, from like a usability perspective, especially, it's soccer, from that soccer perspective, fresh yellow lines, those are things that wear out easily. You go back to last year, those yellow lines, probably half as bright as what we have out there currently. And that can make a big difference in the game of soccer when you have these multi-use turf fields. Football gets the white lines, so soccer gets the different ones. And whatever those lines can be brightened up, because usually it'll be a different color than you're used to playing on. It's great to have them brighter. Actually, the field I played on in high school, we had black lines.
Really?
For the soccer field. That was interesting to play on.
And even then, if you're a player with these bright yellow lines, it's a good way to just like easily position yourself and be like, all right, I'm here. The goal is here. I can move the ball here to these teammates and try to get some opportunities.
And you actually saw, I remember seeing it a couple times last year too. If you have those fading lines, players that might get caught out not being sure where the sideline is, and you'll see throw-in violations. You'll see players pick up the ball on the sideline because they think it's out of bounds. Happens less when you have freshened up sidelines, and also when you have that new maroon area on the field. Does make it a bit clearer where the differentiation is between the soccer and football field. Elmhurst working down the near side. Lauren Jack sends that in. Jeske, saved by Gonzalez, goes down to one knee, picks it up, and she'll clear it out now.
Good kick by Jeske. She got it right through the legs of the Cougar defender, but Gonzalez was able to make the easy save and keep this a 3-0 game.
Rodriguez plays that central, or that's taken back by Elmhurst. Burnap sends that back to Urbanchik. And Urbanchik over to Rodriguez. Can't keep it in bounds. That would be a throw-in for the Blue Jays.
Rodriguez gave a good chase on that one, but just ultimately couldn't track it down before it rolled out. And, we're approaching about the 5-minute mark here. If you're the Cougs, do you start ratcheting up the aggressiveness so that, going into halftime, maybe you're only down 3-1 instead of 3-0?
Normally, I would say yes. Normally, you'd love to make an aggressive push at the end of the half, especially if it's been stagnant for a while like this game has. There's a long shot on. Gonzalez comes up and snags that one out of the air. Normally, yes, in a regular season game. This is regular season, but it's non-con. And from the way that Coach Garza was managing his roster so far in this game, I think he's more so, honestly, very much so, emphasizing that experience angle rather than trying to win the game right now. A lot of different faces in there now from when the game started, just trying to get different faces on the field, get them experience in the half. You might see him ratchet it up at the start of the second half, put different roster out there, try and put some pressure on the Blue Jays then. But right now I think he's just trying to get some experience and get out of this first half.
Yeah, you're trying to make it so that by the time conference play comes and, end of September, early October, that these freshmen, these sophomores, they have the experience and they're more confident in themselves and of their abilities on the field.
That's back into the box. Gonzalez comes up on it, picks it out from the air before Bogacevic is able to get there. That ball played up towards Alvarado. Alvarado back to Rodriguez. Now Rodriguez plays the ball to Espinoza. Tapped out of the air halfway. Nice slide tackle from Burnap to sail it away, but can't get up and kick it away in time before Ziers is there. Now the Cougars, they take that possession. Ron Cruz working downfield, gets it taken away, and the Blue Jays have possession back once more.
Cougs have had some nice plays in isolation today. They just haven't been able to really have them consecutively and make it so that they've been able to have a nice pass here into a nice pass here into a nice shot there.
There's another offsides tagged on Elmhurst. Last 15 minutes or so of this game, pretty much it's been kickball. It's been back and forth, 20-yard line to 20-yard line. Honestly, looking like a possession drill in a soccer practice for the last chunk of this game.
Yeah, Elmhurst jumped out to the lead. I think they had 3 goals in the first 20 or so minutes, but since then, it's like you said, just been a game of kickball back and forth, up and down the field, up and down the field.
Long ball cleared away by Ziers. And that ball kept in bounds by Bogacevic. Tries to play that central. Nobody there. Espinoza Suarez able to clear that out.
We're hitting the 2-minute drill here in the first half.
That's played in by DeFeo. Chipped up by Bogacevic, and Gonzalez steps up, snags it down, and she'll clear it out. Minute 50 left. Like Eric mentioned, under that 2-minute mark, Elmhurst currently pressing the offensive advantage.
Yeah, if you're Elmhurst, you'd like to see if you can hit a surprise on the Cougs right here at the end of the half. Maybe make it so you're going to half up 4-0 instead of 3-0.
That's tapped out of bounds. Again, Cougars slowly working their way upfield. Ron Cruz heads that towards the center. A nice step up from Gruel, but it's not enough to keep possession, as Elmhurst will clear that downfield and out of bounds.
Now as you're hitting the last minute, if you're the Cougs, you really just don't want to make any big glaring mistakes that allows the Blue Jays to get off one quick, easy shot right at the end.
Another throw in for the Cougars. Trying to get one last push downfield as Elmhurst defense playing the tap it out of bounds game. As that one gets from Ron Cruz, can't touch it down to herself, but the Cougars still retaining possession, trying to keep it with their feet before it's finally cleared out by the Blue Jays. As Bogacevic trying to make one last run herself into the corner, Urbanchik sends that out of bounds. And that will take us to 10 seconds left. Elmhurst, one last quick push as we are under 10 minutes to go. And that'll do it in the first half of today's season opener for Concordia Chicago. Not the start of the game the Cougars wanted. Great start to the game for Elmhurst. It's 3-0 Blue Jays as we head into halftime. Both of these teams, they'll catch a breather. They'll set up a new game plan for the second half when we come back right here on the Cougar Sports Network. Welcome back to River Forest here at Concordia Stadium. Concordia Chicago Cougars in their season opener taking on the Elmhurst Blue Jays in a women's soccer matchup. Blue Jays jumped out to a 3-0 first half lead early, so the Cougars will be playing from behind to kick off the second half.
Yeah, not an ideal start to the game if you're the Cougars. You go down 3-0 early, you have a lot of ground to make up.
And you see a lot of those players who started the game for the Cougars back out there to start the second half. Notable change is Brooke Sheriff back in goal for CUC. Spent the most time in the net for Concordia last season, getting her first time in net of the year in the second half of this game.
And I kind of suspected that we'd see that. You know, you send Naomi Gonzalez out there for the first half, get her some minutes, get her some experience in a non-conference game, and then you send the veteran Brooke Sheriff out there for the second half.
Elmhurst pushing the ball downfield. Cummings chasing that down on the far sideline. As Cougars defense will send this all the way across and out of bounds. So Elmhurst will get a throw in on the near side.
Elmhurst getting an early opportunity down right near the Cougars side of the field to have a chance to try to test Sheffield. But despite the early throw-in, no harm, no foul for the Cougs.
Mendoza, long ball down the far sideline, cleared out of bounds by Angie Lopez. But the Cougars do move it slowly up the field.
Yeah, they're not as much pushed back against their own goal as they were about a minute ago.
Yeah, and like we said earlier, nothing from this game is going to cause Coach Garza to start to panic.
No, absolutely not.
But I bet you'd love to see that offense start to click a little bit in the second half here today.
Yeah, you know, they only had one shot on goal in the first half. You'd like to see them get up to 5 or 6 or 7, maybe even get one past the keeper into the net, avoid a shutout. But again, it's the first game of the year. It's a non-conference game. You're just using this as a gauge to see where your young players are at.
Here's Coughlin, top of the key. That's stolen away by Urbanchik. She keeps moving down the field. That's sent central to Hirayama. Now Hirayama over to the near side to Martinez. Martinez working towards the corner. Long ball looking for Erica Flores. That's cleared out of bounds by Nora Simon. And that'll be a corner throw-in.
Now some good short passes by the Cougs. They had trouble with that in the first half, so it's nice to see they're doing that effectively here in the early stages of the second.
Hirayama misjudges that ball off the elbow, and that'll be a handball free kick for Elmhurst. Simon sends that past midfield. Cummings takes possession, moves central. She'll try and cross that to the far sideline. Can't get it past Natalie Flores. And Natalie Flores, a lot of space. Long ball sent up for Erica Flores. Crossing missed by Cazares. Just a bit out ahead. And the Blue Jays will clear that all the way to the Cougars' defensive third.
Cazares just wasn't able to get forward in time to get the shot up, but a good sequence there by the Cougs.
Sheriff over to Mendoza. Now Mendoza will send that upfield to Cazares. Cazares whiffs the touch a little bit, and Elmhurst will take possession back. And Cazares steps up, forces a short pass. Natalie Flores is there, gets it back to Mendoza. Mendoza over to Jaimes. Jaimes back to Sheriff. Now Sheriff over to Schlitzman. Cougars defense playing it over. I mean, it doesn't really produce much, and the Cougars have only really had one strong offensive possession, but the defensive passing is looking better as Hirayama with an aggressive stab at the ball there. Takes down Guala, so that'll be a close free kick for Elmhurst.
And that kind of shaky defensive passing early in the game is what set up the Blue Jays for those opportunities to get those early goals. So the fact that they're kind of cutting out those and making better passes is a very good sign.
So now Coughlin will take the free kick. No misdirection this time from Elmhurst. Coughlin straight towards the goal and off the frame, out of bounds. Nobody touches it, so it'll be a goal kick for the Cougs. They'll take that break.
Yeah, Coughlin was in a very good position there, but that ball just ended up hooking right and going right out the back.
Mendoza up the far sideline, tries to get it to Cazares, can't. But she's there to break up the flow. Now Urbanchik pressing on Guala. Guala back to Coughlin. Now Coughlin tripping it up forwards, and here Yama will clear it out. Now Cazares will play pressure on it. Lopez is there to bring it forwards. A little kickball going on between these two teams as the Cougars try to get it back past half. And it'll end with a throw-in out of bounds.
Two teams just going up and down the field slowly. Cougars now trying to get something going so they can breach the Blue Jay side.
That's headed down central, cleared out by Schlissman. Cazares steps up on it, gets it to Erica Flores. Flores tries to tap it up to Cazares. Cazares will have to take it back from Lopez if she wants it. And whistle's going to be blown out of bounds. Cougars ball. Lopez couldn't get around Cazares cleanly, so Concordia will have possession.
Good defensive stand there by Cazares to force an Elmhurst mistake.
It looks like it's actually a free kick, so Lopez got tagged with some kind of whistle. As that's sent downfield and headed straight out of bounds by Lopez. So it will be a throw-in pretty much from the same spot. Fairless puts that in. That's cleared downfield. And Cummings beats Hymas, straight central, one-on-one, goal! Maddie Cummings beats the defense, gets a charge for 30 yards, one-on-one with Sheriff, and she places it perfectly into the bottom right bins. That's 4-0 Elmhurst.
Yeah, Cummings managed to get the ball off the deflection about the 40-yard line, and then she just went on a streak. She burst down the center of the field, managed to sneak the ball past Sheriff and add to this Blue Jay lead.
That's a bit of a sloppy touch on the Cougars' end.
And those were the touches we saw a lot in the very early stages of this game, but as the first half had gone on, it looked like they were slowly removing those touches and playing cleaner soccer.
You see near Hirayama right before this kickoff, bringing the team together around the middle of the field, just trying to reset after a couple string of mistakes to allow that goal. As Mendoza on the far side sends that up field. Now she'll clear it upfield. That's headed down by Lopez. Again, getting bounced back and forth on the far side of the field. You flip the field to where it was in the first half. This is where the ball spent a lot of the first half too, that right side of the Cougars field.
And not a whole lot of play down here on the near side by us. It was very much in front of the benches, usually the Cougar bench.
Here's Asinato, sends that into Bray. Now Bray to Nevins. Bray downfield looking for Cummings. Gets around Hymas, cleared out by Schlissman. And again touched it down by Simon. This will get sent in by Moscarello. If she could get to it. She couldn't, shield it out of bounds by Natalie Flores. Now be a goal kick for Brooke Sheriff.
One thing the Blue Jays have done well so far is they've been very good at maintaining control of the ball and not making some of the pass errors that we've seen the Cougars make.
sent over to Sheriff. Sheriff over to Mendoza. Mendoza quickly moving up the sideline. Laces that through to nobody. So the Blue Jays offense will retake possession. That's cleared out on the sideline side of the pole, so that would be a throw-in for Elmhurst. Quickly thrown in by Muscarello. She'll cross that in. Nearly an own goal. But the Cougars able to edge off Bray just enough.
For a second when that ball went off the back of, I believe, Schlissman, I couldn't really tell which direction it was heading, but fortunately for the Cougs, ended up going down the field instead of back into the net.
Dangerous play from Concordia, but it stays damageless on that possession. They'll start moving down the far side of the field once again. Lopez sends that up to Nevin. Nevins over to Asinato. Asinato, long ball into Cummings. Cummings deflects that out of bounds. That'll be a throw-in for the Cougars on the near side. Nevins heads that down towards Schlissman, and Schlissman kicks it out of bounds. It'll be a throw-in from the same spot, but it's Elmhurst letting it throw now.
Elmhurst, another good opportunity here to try to poke one past Sheriff, increase their lead.
Bray tosses that in. Hirayama heads that out of the box. Nevins wanted to call on a push in the back, didn't get it. So now it's a loose ball out at the top of the box. Flores pressure, can't get it. Mendoza pressure, gets it up to Natalie Flores. Tries to push the pace. Now get cleared out of bounds by Angie Lopez.
Speaking of Nevins wanting a call there, these are two very physical teams. Last year, both teams had over, I think, 130 total fouls, but so far, only two of them, only two apiece.
Arteaga Vasquez trying to get that to Martinez. Now Schlissman on the near side will try to get to Martinez. Not enough sauce on it. And Bray will send that to Nevins. Nevins working towards the corner. Hirayama applies pressure and taps it out of bounds.
Yeah, Hirayama realized there was nowhere to go with the ball and that the best option was just get it out and make the Blue Jays do a throw-in.
That's down to Cummings. Cummings trying to work out of a jam immediately in from Bray on the one touch, and that's cleared out by Hymas. Now Natalie Flores on the far side gets it up to Cazares. Cazares has it taken away by Simon. Now that gets up to Cummings. Cummings, ball over to Conlon. Conlon, a lot of free space on the near side of the field. Working her way up, looking for who she's going to pass it to. She'll send it to the corner. Now Nevins, nice step up from Martinez to tap that away from behind. And that's a long shot taken from Coughlin, well out of bounds.
Coughlin realized that the Cougars were kind of still circling in around her, so she just wanted to get a shot off, but didn't have any real direction, just went way left. So while the Blue Jays did have some good passes deep in Cougar territory, ultimately still a goal kick for the Cougs.
Schlissman into Hymas. Hymas back out to Schlissman. Has a little space on the near sideline. Tries to power that through to Martinez. Gets blocked. And is back in the penalty box. They'll switch sides. Martinez taking it right. Tries to get it middle. Does so, but Arteaga Vasquez with a poor touch, and it gets through to Conlon. Conlon just holding possession. Lays it off to Muscarello. Now working central is Coughlin gets tapped back out of bounds. Still back where we've been for most of this half. Cougars defensive third. That gets tapped out of bounds by Martinez. Another throw-in incoming.
And that ball went deep, left the field entirely.
That's tapped out of the box by Schlissman. That'll roll all the way out the sideline. Another throw-in for the Blue Jays. Asenato's there to make it. Bray looking for Nevins, gets it to her in the corner. Nevins has some space from Hirayama, but kicks it straight to Schlissman, so the Cougars an opportunity to clear it, and they do. Here's Erica Flores, slowly moving right, getting it over to Arteaga Vasquez. Now Arteaga Vasquez, long ball, looking for Natalie Flores, way too much on that. That's going to get all the way to the penalty box. Fitzharris is there to pick it up.
And that pass was intended for Flores, who was streaking down the far side, but unfortunately it was a little too far out of her reach. She wasn't able to get to it in time. It's actually not Aaron Fitzharris over there. Head coach Susie McCreary Foster has put in Sequoia Ross, sophomore out of St. Charles, Missouri, into goal for the second half. Well, you figure at this point you're up 4-0. Your defense has been stopping the Cougar offense very well. Might see what this other goalie can do.
It's out of bounds. It'll be a throw-in for the Blue Jays. We've got a line change for the Cougars.
This is one of the benefits of having a deep roster like the Cougs. You can do this and basically just replace everyone on the field at the same time with a new person.
The Cougars effectively do that, replace everyone on the field except for the keeper, Brooke Sheriff. So that's going to be a fun list of substitutions to come in on the stat broadcast. As that throw in, looking for the box, chipped up towards Sheriff, charging, snags it out of the air. Coach Garza trying to get as many players time on the field as he can today. Nevins tapping that upfield. Gets it to Muscarello. Muscarello tries to cross it in. That's blocked back out by Espinoza. Looking central. Fairless steps in, taps it, still in the box. Espinoza clears that out. Gets crossed right back in. Now stepping up on it and finally clearing out is Presley Alvarado. But the Blue Jays, they'll bring it right back into the Cougars' defensive third. It'll be out of bounds. It'll be a throw-in on that third of the field.
Askery tried to chase it down for the Cougs, but wasn't able to quite catch up with it. And again, Blue Jays have a throw-in deep in Cougar territory.
Looking for Nevins in the corner. Nevins turning, cleared out by Alvarado. Now get tapped out the goal line, so it'll be a goal kick for the Cougars. As we get one substitution in for the Blue Jays. Out of the game goes Guala. Into the game comes Audrey Bray. I was just looking up at this roster, quickly seeing Grace Bray, out on the field, number 10, is a transfer into Elmhurst, former college Fontbonne.
Ooh, Fontbonne, rest in peace.
Relic of days gone by. Fontbonne University closing down after their last academic year last year. And Elmhurst profiting, bringing in Grace Bray now in her second year with the Blue Jays. Amron Cruz on the far sideline trying to get out of a jam. That's out of bounds off of the Cougs. It'll be a throw-in for Elmhurst. Down the line, trying to get it to Nevins. Cleared out by the Cougars. Nevins wanted to call for a hold. Probably should have gotten one there.
Did look like a bit of a grab on Nevins, but either way, it will be a Blue Jay throw-in.
It starts to feel like, I mean, this has been sort of it's been an oddly paced game. I mean, there's been 4 goals scored, but it's still been a slow game. It's been kind of a lull you to sleep kind of game, and the officials haven't had to really do much either this game.
Yeah, like you said, it was boom, boom, boom to start the game. Blue Jays scored 3 goals in about 20 minutes. Didn't score in the other 25 of the first. And then they scored early here in the second half, but since then haven't done anything.
That's headed out of bounds by number 17, Emily Herlihy. So Stacy Maskery will throw it in again. Going for Fairless, nice step up on it by Coughlin. Now Nevins will hold central. Sends it back over to Herlihy. Alvarado putting that over to Espinoza. Espinoza now working towards the far sideline. Sends it central. Now back outside. Cougars trying to get it back out the defensive third. Gruel working it upfield, and there's a long ball. Wasn't going to go to anyone. Stopped down by Herlihy. Another cross central. That one's going to make it to Ross. That's picked up, and that'll get cleared out by the keeper.
You got a few Cougars down there trying to get the ball and trying to get possession to get off what would be only their second shot of the game, but goalkeeper was able to get to it in time.
I mean, for whatever reason, that was a solid offensive opportunity for the Cougars, but Elmhurst flipping the fields once again, slowly albeit this time, working those short passes, creating space and bringing it past midfield as that long ball will head out of bounds.
And that has been a skill of the Blue Jays through this game. On the occasions that the Cougars have been able to get down on the Blue Jays side of the field and stay down there for a little bit, the Blue Jays have done a good job of just getting the ball back and immediately pushing to the Cougars side.
Nevins up, gets to Bray. Now Nevins over again, this time trying to get it to his ears. Sheriff will clear that shot out. And there's a missed touch. Whiffed by Herlihy.
Cougars will have a throw-in decently in the Blue Jay territory.
That's in. Gets it to Marecki. Loose ball past the official. Stepping on it is Rushman. Rushman working on the near sideline, trying to get out of a jam, just gets cleared out by the Blue Jays instead. So Alvarado will swing that across the field over to Espinoza.
And Rushman was trying to get the ball past the defender in her face and was able to, but the defender behind that defender cleared it down the field.
Nice slide out of Courtney Conlon to take possession back for the Blue Jays. It feels less like a back-and-forth game of kickball right now, more like a back-and-forth game of pinball. It's a bit more controlled, a bit shorter, just, jolts back and forth with the ball, but still kind of stuck in this middle of the field. Neither team making much progress towards the goal right now.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've seen either team get deep and have any good shots on goal. .22 minutes left in the match. Elmhurst leads 4-0 over Concordia. That's a long ball upfield. Now get tagged for offsides. Izzy Vargas just a couple steps out front of the Cougar defense. Vargas knew she had some space there on the far side, but wasn't able to get in a spot where she wasn't in front of a Cougar defender.
Spinoza sends that central. A long ball off of Gruel to nobody. Makes it to the penalty box. Picked up by Ross, and that'll get cleared out once again. down to Marecki. Marecki working the far side. Loses possession. So the Cougars' defense will work with it once again. Here's Rushman, has Nevins chasing her down, and Nevins is going to swipe it away from her, but she's just going to kick it downfield. Might get out of bounds, but it won't. It'll stop. Rushman gets there. Passes back to Sheriff. Sheriff over to the far side, and the Cougars swinging that circle as we stay in the middle of the field. 20 and a half minutes to go in this game for women's soccer. I mean, we already mentioned it. Busy week coming up for women's soccer. Yeah. Busy week coming up for Cougars athletics. Cougar Stadium in action for the next 4 days straight. They're here today for women's soccer. Tomorrow, men's soccer in action for their season opener. Women's soccer back in action this Sunday, taking on University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. And then the men's team is back in action Monday night before both these teams have off days on Tuesday. But then we're right back in action with a soccer doubleheader on Wednesday. A busy week coming up for Cougar soccer, and you'll be able to catch it all of it right here on the Cougar Sports Network.
Yeah, if you were missing Cougar sports over the summer, you're getting a lot of it in a short doses. Like you said, 4 days in a row, day off, and then a doubleheader.
And we got Cougar football kicking off their season this Saturday at home at 11 a.m., taking on the University of Minnesota Morris Cougars. So Cougars matchup coming up this Saturday, next Saturday for Cougars football. Women's volleyball, they're making debuting their season in Ohio at an invitational in Cedar Point this weekend, but they'll be kicking off their home season that same Saturday, 2 Saturdays from now, taking on Blackburn.
Even more, Concordia's cross-country team was starting their season today with their first meet of the year, so a lot of Cougar sports happening all at once.
That's tapped out of bounds, and as we were talking about all of that, the ball stayed in the middle of the field. It's still in the middle of the field. That's ball thrown down to 30. Cougars defense sends it midfield. Elmhurst sends it back. Alvarado's there to send it right back the other way. Now Sheriff all the way in the penalty box will just clear that up to the middle of the field. Rushman, near side, slowly working in. Cougars defense going back and forth. Now in the corner, Elmhurst trying to get it to Gantha, and they can't. So the Cougars defense, they'll force Elmhurst to reset. As that's a long ball. Nice touch out of the air by Chapa. Chapa trying to continue to apply pressure before it's cleared out by Maskery. And now Gruel with a chance to break away, has it taken away. So Elmhurst will be able to apply offensive pressure once again, looking for Chapa. Chapa trying to chase it down before it gets out of bounds. On the near side of the poles, that would be a throw-in for the Cougs.
Yeah, before that, Chapa was coming down the near side. I don't think the Cougars realized she was down there, but by the time the ball got to her, Cougars did realize and wasn't able to get a good shot on goal.
17 minutes remain, 4-0 Elmhurst. As Rushman clears that upfield, Ron Cruz kicks that back off of Bray. Espinoza Suarez sends that up to midfield. And we're going back and forth once again. You mentioned earlier on in this game, Eric, with some great weather to kick off this season.
Perfect weather.
We've had some amazing weather here for the past week. I mean, been staying in the 70s. Woke up 2 nights ago like 7 a.m. to get ready for the day. It's like 56 outside, which is pretty insane for August.
Yeah, well, even this past Monday, there was a fire alarm in our building. We had to go outside. It was great outside. Like, it wasn't too cold, wasn't too warm. We were just very relaxed out there as we waited to go back in.
I think the last time I moved in back around August 19th. We haven't hit 90 since then. I don't think we're going to hit 90 the rest of this year.
Very doubtful, yeah.
So some great weather in Northern Illinois as we get Cougar Athletics kicked off. Soccer's enjoying it. 70 degrees and breezy. Fairless back to Alvarado. Eric, what do you want to eat for dinner tonight?
Ooh, whatever they have in the cafeteria, I guess. Or, I don't know. Might end up going to McDonald's. I have to go to Poetry Club after this, so we'll see if I make it to the calf in time.
We just had a few of the students out watching the game come back with some food, and the wind's blowing that up here in the press box. Smells really good right now.
What do you have a taste for right now, Jonathan?
I don't know. I'm smelling something barbecue saucy. Ooh. I could go for some chicken nuggets right now. Chicken nuggets, barbecue sauce.
They had good barbecue in the calf yesterday. It was actually, like, quite good.
Barbecue is what the Blue Jays have been making of the Cougars today. They lead 4-0, 15 minutes left in the game.
Do you think barbecued Cougar would just taste like steak, or how do you think it would taste?
I don't even know what Cougar would taste like.
I feel like it would be a very tough texture.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking maybe more of like probably closer to like a venison steak, something like that.
Okay. You ever tried boar? That's got a very like specific taste.
Elmhurst trying to apply some pressure. Long shot, very wide from Anna Nordstrom. Nordstrom, one of the international players for Elmhurst from Stockholm, Sweden. As we get a set of subs in for Elmhurst.
And like you said, Elmhurst got a few international players on their roster. They have Haraganta out of Greece. They have, it's not international, but they have Nora Simons from Alaska. Bit of a very wide reach for this program.
Elmhurst retaining possession on the near side. Chapa will take the throw. Short throw into the box. Workman's there. And they'll lose possession. Sheriff comes out. She'll pick that up, and she'll clear it away once again.
So while the Blue Jays have spent some time down near the Cougar goal, they haven't really threatened.
This has been a very chill second half outside of the one goal for the Blue Jays on a defensive lapse from the Cougars. There hasn't been much strong pressure from either team in this second half. I mean, it's probably been on the Cougars' defensive side of the field more often, but the Blue Jays haven't been putting a lot of strong shots on goal. They've gotten shots on goal, but they haven't gotten any on goal in the second half. They've gotten shots off. They've gotten it in the box, but nothing strong so far in this half outside of that one goal from the Blue Jays.
Yeah, it's been a relatively lax half in terms of big, fiery plays from either side.
Now Chapa, nice move. She brings that central. Here's Lopez. Back out to Chapa. Nice step up and steal from Stacy Maskery. And it'll be a corner kick. Actually, that'll be a throw-in.
I think Maskery did a very good job of redirecting the ball right before it went out the back and instead kicking it out the side.
Elmhurst will keep possession of it, though. And the Cougars will clear that out. Looks like Coach Garza is getting one more wave of subs ready on the Cougars bench.
I figure bring in this last round of subs to close out the last 10 minutes or so of this game.
Now the Cougars on the far side trying to work that central. And that'll just end up getting cleared down the far sideline and out of bounds again for a Cougars throw-in. Rushman, lots of space, central, and she'll just send that into the box. Bit too far out ahead of Moran Cruz, picked up by Ross.
And I think Rushman was hoping that Moran Cruz would be able to kind of move from the near side and get up towards the ball, but didn't play out that way.
And Rushman watches that out of bounds, so throw in Cougars. And here comes that last wave of subs. Well, not necessarily last, but probably last big wave of subs we'll see from the Cougars. 4 players into the game for Concordia.
And again, you'd imagine this Cougar set will most likely be the one that's on the field here for the last 10:46. Play out the game.
That ball's thrown in by Marlon Bautista. Moran Cruz over her head, getting it up to Marecki. And whistle is blown on Marecki. Getting a bit too grabby as she tried to fight for the ball. Now it'll be a free kick for the Blue Jays. Herlihy sends that up to Pascale. Long pass up to Worcester. And now whistle's going to get tagged on Elmhurst. So it'll be a free kick for the Cougars. Long shot taken off frame. Now head out of bounds. That'll be a goal kick for CUC.
That was a deep shot from probably about the, 20-yard line. Just ended up soaring a bit to the right. Sheriff watched it for a second. It's like, I'll just let this one roll out on its own.
Under 10 minutes to go in the game. Elmhurst still leading 4-0 over Concordia Chicago. Lucy Carter working with it in the middle of the field. She'll send that over to the near side, and that will end up out of bounds. That'll be a throw-in for Elmhurst.
Jonathan, we were speaking earlier that the Cougars have been on an upwards trajectory the past few years. What do you think? What do the Cougars need to do this year so that at the end, this season is considered a success?
I think what the Cougars need to do for the season be considered a success. I guarantee you, Coach Garza, he has a set sight on the top of the conference. That's where his sights are set. I think from the neutral perspective, for this to continue an upwards trajectory for the Cougars, finish at or above 500. They've been lagging under that 500 mark for a long time now. If you can crack that barrier, which this team has struggled in the past, honestly, a lot of these, both Cougar soccer teams, men's and women's, have struggled to do in the last few years. If you can crack that barrier, that would be a massive step forward and honestly a big success considering the program history for this team.
And again, considering that their offense didn't perform at an optimal level last year, they had a lot of ties, they had a lot of close losses. They were finished only 2 games below 500. 500 is definitely achievable.
And with a very top-loaded conference, 500, that gets you in the top half of the conference.
Again, they were the 7th seed in the NAC while finishing 2 games below 500. So it's very attainable for them if the offense can really get clicking. They can move away from some of the defensive mistakes they made early, that they can finish 500 or above.
Looks like this is going to be a corner kick for Elmhurst. Herlihy having to come all the way up from defense to take it. And we'll get a last-minute substitution for Elmhurst. Coach McCreary Foster looking to get a bit more playing time for her players As into the game comes Abigail Miller. Hurley sends that. That's a nice placed corner headed out by the Cougars. And amidst the chaos, Concordia able to get it out of the box.
That was a beautiful corner by Hurley, right into the throng of players in the middle. Fortunate for the Cougs that the Blue Jays weren't able to get a good shot off.
Going central, kicked up by Burnap. Now it will be Alvarado to send that out of bounds. 7 minutes left in the game. As the game winds down, you start to see the Concordia football team start to congregate around the fence as they get ready for practice coming up on the field after this game.
And like you said, they're in the final stages as a prep for their first game of the season, which is in 8 days.
As this ball languished in the middle field. Again, Hurley, long ball. And that's going to be on frame. Sheriff having to leap to knock that one off.
At first, I thought that was going wide, but then it ended up Sheriff had to make a jumping hit with her hands to make sure it didn't find the top corner of the net.
That is a great play from Brooke Sheriff to keep the gap at 4. It'll be a corner again for the Blue Jays. Hurley to take it. That's looking for the top of the box. Still languishing in there. A poor touch from Moran Cruz, punched out by Sheriff.
And Moran Cruz, I think she meant for it to go a little farther up towards the far side of the field than it ended up doing in reality. Instead, it just kind of popped up.
And the Cougars survive again. Elmhurst continuing to just hold possession in that offensive third. Cougars able to clear that out. Trying to apply some pressure. Moran Cruz will take possession of it, and she'll lay it off to the Blue Jays. Elmhurst retaking possession on that. Hurley sends that over to Freischlag. Now Freischlag gets it into Pasquale. Fairless trying to beat it around Moran Cruz. Sends it back to Burnap. Again, pinball around midfield between these two squads. Is now Ganta. Sends that into the box, finds Lopez. Lopez back to Ganta. Ganta trying to get around. And whistle is finally going to be blown for a pull back around the 20-yard line. That would be a free kick for the Cougs. Rushman to Burnap all the way across the field.
As we're winding down with the last 4 minutes of the game, if you're the coach of the Cougs, Eddie Garza, what do you tell the team that you're looking to kind of change and alter and fix before they have their second game of the season on Sunday?
I don't know if there's really much to, explicitly these are glaring, awful things you guys were doing today. I mean, in general, probably be a bit more confident with your touches, be a bit more confident with getting rid of the ball, with making a direct pass instead of panicking and just kicking it into free space. A lot of chaos on that end. In general, though, I think what the focus is going to be for this team isn't really a course correction from this game. It's just more time in practice, more time working together, more time practicing those short passing, that slow, gradual movement up the field, just getting used to playing as a team again as this season goes on. It's that progression you see with every young team. It's the progression we saw with this exact team last year, and it's what I'm expecting to see this year. Again, this game, obviously 4-0, not a good result for the Cougars today, but it doesn't feel like an awful game. They've had some bad moments, but it's non-conference. The Blue Jays, they've dominated in quotes, but it hasn't been just like a constant aggressive pressure on the goal. They haven't been throwing the Cougars around. It's been a very slow game. The Cougars have been playing a good bend, not break defense, considering that they've been playing defense for the majority of this game.
Yeah, like you said, earlier with the early goals that the Blue Jays had, those goals were very much results of moments where you can point at and say, okay, in this moment, this player did this thing wrong, and if you can avoid making that play in the future, that takes away one of the goals.
Yeah, this is definitely nowhere close to a panic button for Concordia Chicago. You've played your first actual game action that's not a scrimmage, and you know where you need to go from here, which isn't really very different from what the focus is going to be coming into this season. It's that short passes, that progression up the field, and creating offense and creating opportunities.
And with such a young team that this Cougar team has, sometimes that you just need playing times, that you understand how your teammates work in a game that's not an exhibition or a scrimmage.
Yeah, and obviously the glaring part on that stat sheet going to be for the Cougars ignoring the final minute of this game, 2 minutes of this game as we reach that 2-minute, 10-second mark. If it holds as it is, only one shot put up by the Cougars today. It was a shot on goal, but still only one shot put up by Concordia today. And it's not a number you like to see. Probably Coach Garza, probably a team we're hoping to see just some general improvement already in that regard for this team, especially not numbers that low.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's what you worked with last year, and you're going to learn to work with throughout this year. Like we said, none of this is glaring as a, whoa, that's something awful that we didn't expect. It's just, all right, we're going to work on that. It's the way this team was last year. They'll continue to improve on it as this year goes on. As we reach a minute 30 left in the game, Elmhurst back in the offensive third. Nice run around. Getting it up to Ganta. As she sends that central, it's cleared out by Burnap.
Yeah, the offensive woes for the Cougs this game, again, nothing you need to worry about. If we're still talking about this in a month's time, as NAC play is about to start, then that might be a little bit of a concern. But first game of the year, you're shaking off the rust. You're getting to know each other on the field. Sure, would you have liked to maybe get into the score column? Yeah, but nothing major.
Yeah, there's a shot from Lopez. Sheriff falls on it. And they'll just kill time now. 50 seconds left in the game. Both of these teams content with just riding this game out as Sheriff takes her time to get rid of it. And the official is not hurrying her. The Cougars trailing. No benefit for the Cougars in holding for this long besides getting the game done with. As she punts it away after holding for a hot minute. That's headed out of bounds off of Marecki. So it'll be a throw in for the Blue Jays. And it'll get held around midfield. Maybe one last push out of Elmhurst, and they'll just hold it around midfield. A long shot towards Sheriff will do it. And that's your season opener. Cougar soccer back in action. And Elmhurst picks up the win in River Forest. It's a 4-0 win for the Blue Jays. Concordia Chicago drops their first game of the season to fall to an 0-1 record right off the bat after a game that, on paper, not a good game for the Cougars, but doesn't feel as bad as it could.
No, if you look at it, the stats tell a very different story from the tape. If you look at the stats, it's like, man, Cougars only got one shot versus the Blue Jays 18. Blue Jays put 4 in the back of the net. But in reality, 3 of those were early off some Cougar mistakes. And as the game went, the Cougars were more and more sure of themselves defensively. And then on offensively, again, weren't able to really get a whole lot going.
Yeah, like we said, it's non-conference. Cougars, a lot of time to go before we get into NAC play. So Eddie Garza is going to play with that, play with his young roster, figure out what works best for this team as they move forward through non-conference play on the Elmhurst. And good game from the Blue Jays. Got the job done, kept pressure on the Cougars for the majority of the game. Maddie Cummings, the forward, the standout performer from that squad. 2 goals in her first game as a freshman.
Yeah, that's, if you're Elmhurst, that's something you like seeing out of your freshman. First game of the season, she has 2 goals on 3 shots. That's a good level of production that you're hoping she can maintain moving forward.
And the biggest thing you're going to see in that disparity, it's what we preached about the Cougars all of last year into this year. Shot volume worked out great for Elmhurst today. 4 goals on 18 shots. The Cougars just 1 shot in the first half, and that was it for the whole day for Concordia. So the Cougars still showing signs of struggling on offense. You can probably guarantee that's going to be one of the primary focuses for this team as they work through practice, trying to figure out how can we build up that offense, put pressure on the opposing defense. But that'll do it here in Concordia, Chicago to kick off the fall 2025 season on the Cougar Sports Network. Concordia, Chicago drops their season opener for women's soccer 4-0 to the Elmhurst Blue Jays.
And if you're the Blue Jays, this game has the added perk of they managed to stay undefeated against the Cougs. This is the 4th time the teams have faced off. Blue Jays are 4-0 against the Cougs.
And as we close out today's game, Cougar Sports Network back online tomorrow covering men's soccer right here in River Forest once again at 2 o'clock. The men's soccer team taking on Lawrence University. I'll do it here on the Cougar Sports Network for today's match. I'm Jonathan Shear, the Cougar Sports Network. On air with me tonight was Eric Perry. Thank you for joining us on the Cougar Sports Network, and make sure to tune in once again tomorrow as the Cougars take on Lawrence University.